Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Kender. In this video, we'll be working on solving systems of equations using the elimination method. So if you can get your worksheet out and follow along with me, that'll definitely be really helpful. Now before we actually begin, there's a few things I just want to note. The term coefficient, if we remember, refers to the number before the variable. For example, if I said 2x, 2 would be our coefficient because that's the number being multiplied by the variable. Next, just remember that standard form of a linear equation is ax plus by equals c. So the equations in our system should be like a number x plus a number y equals a number. Okay, and that's really important because when we do elimination, it's important that both of our equations are in the same exact form. That makes it easier for us. Okay, and lastly, if you remember the phrase, same sign subtract, that'll definitely help you as we go along with our problems, and I'll show you what I mean once we get to some examples. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. Okay, the first thing for us to notice in number 1 is that both of our equations are in standard form. You notice it's a number x plus a number y equals a number. And they're both like that. The x's are lined up, the y's are lined up, and the constants are lined up. Okay, so that helps us out, number 1. Number 2, we're looking at the coefficients. If not including the signs, if we look at the numbers on the x's, we've got an 8 and a 6. They don't match. So that's probably not the one we're going to use to eliminate at this point. If we look at the y's, we've got 6 and 6. Okay, these guys match. So we know that we're eliminating, hence elimination, we're eliminating the y variable. Now, once we've chosen to eliminate the y variable, we're going to look at the signs. Negative and negative. They're the same. If we remember what we said before, same sign subtract, which means that I'm going to put a big minus sign right out front here. And I'm going to subtract away. Negative 8x minus negative 6x is going to give me negative 2x. Negative 6y minus negative 6y cancels or eliminates, which is exactly what we wanted to happen. Okay? And then we carry down the equal sign and do negative 6 minus 6. So that gives us negative 12. And now we have something that we can solve easily. Just like normal, we divide both sides by negative 2. And we end up with x equals 6. Okay? So we know that 6 is going to go in the x spot of our ordered pair. Alright. Now to find the y, just like normal, we would go ahead and take this x equals 6 and plug that into either one of these two equations. No matter which one you choose, it's going to give you the same answer. So I like to choose the one that's a little bit easier for me. Okay, so I'm going to take the x equals 6 and do our second step, which is plugging in 6 for x. So I'm going to use this first equation. In this case, it doesn't really matter. So I have negative 8 times 6. Okay. Negative 48 minus 6y equals negative 6 plus 48. Okay, and we have negative 6y equals 42. Divide by negative 6. And we get y equals negative 7. So then we've gotten our y value. And we are done with the problem. Alright, you can go ahead and pause the video, try number 2 on your own, and then come back and I'll do it with you so you can check your work. Moving on to number 2, let's again just notice that both equations are in the same form, they're both in standard form, so we're good to go ahead. The coefficients on the x's are 7 and 8, which don't match, but the coefficients on the y's are 2 and 2. So that would definitely be the easiest one for us to eliminate. Now that we identified that the coefficients match on the y's, let's look at the sign. We have positive, positive. Same sign, subtract. Alright, so we can go ahead and subtract away. 7x minus 8x is negative 1x, or you can just write negative x if that works for you. 2y minus 2y cancels, which again is supposed to happen. It's called elimination. 24 minus 30 is negative 6. Now, just like normal, go ahead and divide by negative 1. We have x equals 6. And then you go ahead and plug that into either one of these two equations. I'll use the first one. And then go ahead and plug in and solve. So I've got 7 times 6 instead of 7x. Plus 2y equals 24. And then you can just go ahead and solve. Okay, and you should have gotten an answer of y equals negative 9 once you did all the math in between. You can check your work against mine. Alright, so our final answer should be 6, negative 9. Alright, let's move on to number 3. Okay, again, let's just double check. Our equations are both in standard form, so we are good to go. Now the coefficients, not including the signs, the coefficients on the x's are 6 and 6, so that's good. And then on the y's is 5 and 4. So I would definitely choose the x's because those will be the easiest to eliminate. Now once we've decided, let's choose the x's. Let's go ahead and look at the signs. This one's negative, this one's positive. Well, same sign, subtract. They're not the same sign, so we're going to add. So we can just put a big plus sign right out here so we know. And then just add them together. Negative 6x plus 6x cancels. 5y plus 4y gives me 9y. 1 plus negative 10, or 1 minus 10, is negative 9. Okay? Go ahead and divide by 9. I get y equals negative 1. Alright, so we know negative 1 is going in our y spot. Now, just like in substitution, and just like the other examples, I'm going to go ahead and plug in that value we got for y into either one of these two equations. I'm choosing the first one. So we have negative 6x plus 5 times negative 1 equals 1. Negative 6x minus 5 equals 1. Add 5. And look how nicely that works out. Divide both sides by negative 6, and we get x equals negative 1 also. So our solution to this system is negative 1, negative 1. And just a note, if you did that by graphing or by substitution, you still would have gotten negative 1, negative 1. It's just that certain equations, when they're set up certain ways, they're easier to use a different method. And that's where we develop our skills in determining what's what and what's the best thing for us to use. Alright, go ahead and try number 4 on your own, and then you can come back to check your work. Alright, so number 4 is kind of the same deal. We're looking at the forms of the equations. They're both in standard form. We like that. And we go ahead and we look at the coefficients. On the x's, it's 1 and 2. On the y's, we've got a 1 and a 1. So let's choose the y's, because that's definitely easier for us. Alright, the signs though, this one's negative, this one's positive. So it's different signs, add. So make sure you put your big plus sign out front so we know what you're doing. And then let's just add away. X plus 2x is 3x. Negative y plus y cancels. 11 plus 19 is 30. And you definitely know where to go from here. Let's just go ahead and divide everything by 3 so that we can get x alone and get x equals 10. Now again, just like normal, we'll do this over and over and over again. I'm going to take that value we got for x because we need y. Okay, so we have, I'm using the first equation. 10 minus y equals 11. And when you solved that through, you should have ended up with y equals negative 1. So our final solution is 10, negative 1. All right, let's move on to number 5. Now the important thing for us to note in number 5 is that the first equation is in standard form, but the second equation is not. If you notice, in the first equation, the x and y are on the same side together of the equal sign. On here, they're on opposite sides. Okay, so the first step for us to do is to go ahead and subtract the 9y, because that's going to move it to the other side of the equal sign where it needs to be. Now, obviously the x and the y are not like terms, so we can't actually subtract them to get a number, but we can just rewrite it as negative 4x minus 9y, bring down the equal sign, equals negative 23. Okay, and just for my own sake, I'm going to rewrite this first nice equation right underneath so that everything's together for me to solve. Oops. Okay. So now when I do that, I'm just going to do what I normally would. The coefficients on the x's don't match, but the coefficients on the y's do. And we notice that they're both negative, so same sign, subtract. So here comes my big minus sign out front, and I just subtract away like normal. Negative 4x minus negative 2x is negative 2x. These cancel. Negative 23 minus negative 25 equals 2. And when you solve that through, you should get x equals negative 1. Okay? And again, just like normal, we're taking that, plugging that back into one of the equations. I'm going to choose the first one. And once you set it up, just solve away. Okay, so 2 minus 9y equals negative 25. Subtracting 2, we get negative 9y equals negative 27. This is stuff you should already know how to do. And you get y equals 3. So our final solution is negative 1, 3. Go ahead and pause the video, try number 6 on your own, and make sure to note whether or not the forms of the equations are the same, and do what you need to in order to get them to be both in standard form. Okay, so in number 6, we again notice that the first equation is in standard form, but the second one is not. The 30 is on the wrong side of the equal sign, and the negative 2y is on the wrong side of the equal sign, right? Because we want the x and the y to be together on the same side. So in order to change that all up, I'm going to go ahead and add 30 to both sides. So I'm left with negative 4x equals negative 2y plus 30. Okay? And now, again, the negative 2y needs to be moved over here. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2y. And again, you can't actually add negative 4x and 2y, but I can just rewrite it as negative 4x plus 2y equals 30. And that's what we want it to look like. So I'm using this equation, and then I'm just going to rewrite this top one down here so it makes it a little bit easier for me to see. Okay? And then you would just solve it like normal. We notice that the 4's are the same coefficient, but the signs are different, negative, positive, so different signs, add, and I do my thing. All right, and when you did your elimination thing, you should have gotten y equals 5, which you'll then take and plug right into either one of these two equations. I'll choose the first one. All right, so you should have gotten a solution of negative 5, 5. And that is elimination. Great job, and I hope it helped. Goodbye.